Christina, and I'm with Liberty State Spokane County, your host for tonight's Gala event. We have an exciting program for you tonight and a very full schedule, so let's get started. I'd first like to invite Pastor Gabe up, Pastor Gabe Walgren from Covenant Christian Church, and also Treasurer Rob Chase, former Treasurer Rob Chase, who will be doing the pledge, and then we'll have singing of the national anthem by Janessa Black.
Before I pray, if you could just be seated for a second, I'd like to read just very quickly Psalm 133. A lot of people like to say that what we are doing here is divisive. But God talks about a unity that is so strong and so sweet and so precious that God gives it a commanded blessing. A commanded blessing means God has to honor it. I want to read the scripture to you. It's a very small scripture. How good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious oil upon the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down the edge of his garments. It is like the dew of Hermon, descending upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded blessing, life evermore. What we're embarking on and what God is doing, not man, is not division. And I want to ask that we no longer, when we talk about what God is doing in this country, we're not going to say that this country is divided. This state is being unified, and this is a state that is still within the union. Amen? Amen. There's people who I didn't even know that God has brought me to, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one that God has brought you to people you didn't even know. I didn't know Caleb Collier 5 years ago. I didn't know Rob Chase at all. God is bringing something together. Let's stand and pray. God, we thank you for this gathering together of humble people. Jesus, we thank you that there is unity in this place, even in this moment, God, when it feels that there's not. God, your hand is moving. God, there is no such thing, God, as fate with you. God, I thank you that your people have humbly prayed, God. God, they have asked you to be in the center of this. This is not about a man. This is not about an individual. God, this is about restoring, God, the Constitution and the foundation of our nation. God, to back to what it was. God, not abusing rights, but empowering. God, we thank you that your hand is here. God, we ask that everything that happens tonight, that you would be a part of, Lord. We ask everything that is spoken tonight, give you glory. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Gabe. By the way, Pastor Gabe has become a grandfather for the first time, so I think it deserves a round of applause. I don't see Rob Chase out here, so if you would you please join me in a pledge to our flag? There's a flag out there somewhere, folks. Look at this beautiful scene. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That should remain standing. Janessa Black.
Please join me in honoring our God and honoring our nation. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous
Well, thank you all for coming this evening. We have some exciting speakers who will be giving you their perspectives on the Liberty State. First of all, Lady Liberty is here. We also have Spokane City Councilor and future Council President Mike Fagan, along with his partner in crime on ACN's radio show, The Right Spokane Perspective, the one and only Tim Benn. And Mike and Tim will be followed by Lauren Kopp, the Police Chief of Republic, Washington, and author of American Cop. By the way, his books are over there on the side. Please stop by if you want to get an autographed copy. Now, this event is a fundraiser for Liberty State. So we're going to have a dessert auction plus. We'll have other items besides desserts. If you'd like to participate, there are numbers outside. If you haven't got it, we've got some other numbers outside. Go ahead and grab one. Mike Fagan has graciously offered to host our auction, and I understand he might have a surprise guest or two, so looking forward to that. If you haven't had a chance to visit folks at our vendor tables, please be sure to do so before you leave. They're located in the back room off to my left. Also, while the event is free, we've incurred some costs to put this gala on, so we appreciate it if you could make a donation to the cause. We have donation jars in the back, and we would sure appreciate your help if you choose to do that. I'd also like to say thank you to our entertainers tonight. We have our band, Richard Ike and the Knot Bumpers. They did a great job. And you just heard Janissa Black, who did the national anthem, which is Geneva, will be doing a song for her. And I believe Tammy Petty may be singing also. Her voice is good, so we'll find out. Thank you all very much for helping us out. I'd also like to thank all the folks who've worked so hard to put this thing together. And if you've helped, there's many didn't mention, but if you would please just rise so we can give you a round of applause. Okay, so let me tell you why I support Liberty State. First of all, Seattle's values are not my values. Second, although I'm represented in Olympia by some fine legislators, I feel that they are powerless to stop the juggernaut of bad legislation that's taxing us to death and taking away our rights. Passing legislation in the middle of the night, some bills called ghost bills were passed with only the bill number. The text was added later, again, in the middle of the night, without the benefit of public scrutiny. Now, in Washington State, we have a constitutional mandate to fund education, but how much funding is enough? And what results are we getting for our tax money? We have Common Core, which is the absolute lowest common denominator, the very minimum of education for our kids. They can't cut out change. They can't write in cursive. They can't even read an analog clock, and that's what is not being taught in the schools. They're not being taught this stuff, and we're paying a very high premium for that low result. So that's why I support Liberty State. And I can go on and on, there's plenty of points and everything else, but here's what I decided to do about it. I joined the Liberty State movement to get things moving locally. Here in Spokane County, we have a two-pronged strategy of public outreach and political engagement. We have a very dedicated, passionate group of I believers that do great things in the near future, and I'm proud to be working with them. If you'd like to join us, please stop by our table on the back and sign up. Our next event will be on June 7th, where we host the Center for Self-Governance for the Spokane premiere of Dead Man Talk Part 3 at 6:30. That'll be at the Spokane Library right down here off of Pines and Main in Spokane Valley. Then on June 8th and 9th, we'll be recruiting at the gun show at the fairgrounds, so stop by and say hi if you're going to be there. And then our next volunteer meeting will be on Thursday, June 13th at 6:30 down at the Moran Prairie Library. We'd love to have you join us. So anyway, I think I've said enough. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Our Lady Liberty, Renee Holliday. She's been an activist for years and has written an excellent book on property rights. She's currently serving as a coordinator for Liberty State and one of the finest human beings you'd ever want to meet. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Lady Liberty.
They said this comes out really easy. I had to pay him to say that. $20, is that enough? Well, good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you all for being here. We are so happy to see all of you. This has been, this has been about a year and a half that we've been working full time on this. We've put our hearts, our souls into this movement, We have worked so hard from the very beginning of right up until this day. And, I just have to say that this is a privilege for each and every one of us in this room to be a part of this. Because this kind of thing happens maybe once in our lifetime. And so this is something that we can't afford to miss. As all of us are experiencing what is happening from the West Coast, right? We need to be thankful and recognize that this is the way out. This is a very, very doable, viable solution. It's easily understandable as financially viable. Eastern Washington has just about the same revenue as the state of Idaho, and also a comparable population number as well. So if Idaho can do it, we can certainly do it. We've got the numbers to back it. So, we have started with some of the most amazing people. I just can't tell you how privileged I am to be part of this group. I don't deserve to be here, but when you've experienced regulation to the point of being shoved out of business or having to give up your farm, or maybe you've experienced regulation where you've had to pay fines, where you've had to sell your farm in order just to pay for those fines. And then you watch them continue to do this regulatory taking. In my case, is what they tried to do. They actually wanted to steal my whole farm from me. And so, fortunate for me, it's not luck, it's God right there. Matt Shea stepped in and was able to thwart Department of Ecology from taking my entire farm, which they were going to be happy to do. So when you find out just what you're up against, and you keep hitting your head against this brick wall where you try to fight it, and you try to fight it, and you never win, this is when a movement like this actually means something to you. When you go, you know what? We can restore the rights the way they're supposed to be. We can go back to constitutional law, where the Constitution says we have due process, where you're not allowed to just go in and tell somebody you can take their land according to regulatory taking, which doesn't even exist in the Constitution. So, I jumped in wholeheartedly into this effort, and that's where I see everybody being able to become victor over these regulations and just chewing people up and spitting them out without having to care as to what happens to them and their families. This is a solution. So, like I say, this comes along once in a lifetime when you've got somebody with enough spine and enough intelligence and strategy to actually get something like this done. But even better, he pointed out, you know what? There's a constitutional law that makes this doable. Article 4, Section 3 says you can divide the state with simple majority vote in the legislature. And then once you get that done, you get it approved by Congress. What I think is especially inspiring about that is they wrote it in a way that does make it simple. They didn't even require 2/3 vote in the House to get that done. It's simple majority vote, so that ends up being, 48, 49 legislators, right? So when we started this a year and a half ago, there was just our small group. Well, watching what happened in the legislature this past session, we had a Lexit rally there in Olympia. We had 12 state reps standing out there supporting and speaking in favor of it. And that was before even the end of session hit. Well, then the end of session hit. And we all saw how many horrifying bills they actually passed. I mean, seriously, it was described as a bloodbath. What they got is absolutely atrocious. And the only thing that I got out of all that was, well, thank goodness we have a solution. Thank goodness we're very, very close to getting this accomplished with simple majority vote. So at the end of session, when all this passed, we had an even larger number of representatives on board with us because they'd had it. And they went, oh my gosh. They actually even said, it's going, and it wasn't even Representative Shea that said this. They said this on their own. They said, it's either going to be bloodshed or Liberty State. So take that to heart. We've got a much larger support network happening than you would even know about right now. So, you know, for what it's worth, it could happen absolutely. Okay, so, you know, part of the super exciting part of all this is the awesome people that jump in and get involved and take charge. And so what we've done is we've established volunteer structures in each of the counties that will be Liberty State. And so if I could, I would like to have all the county captains and co-captains come up if you would, please. Come on, y'all, don't be shy. Surrounding couple counties. We've got volunteer structures established in each of those counties, and not everybody can be here, of course. So I'd like to just hand the mic to you, and if you would please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Sean Bentley, and I'm the co for Ponderay County.
Floyd Crispin, Ponderay County Chair.
Galen Sorensen, Soton County Co-Captain.
Mike McKee, Chelan County Captain.
Steve Edwards, Yakima County.
Hi, I'm Sean Barrett. I'm the co-captain here in Spokane County.
And I'm John Christina, Captain, Spokane County.
Thank you everyone for standing up here. I would like all of you to see that these are some of the finest we have in our state right here, as far as I'm concerned. These are the people that they jump right in. They're using their own money out of their own pockets to do the advertising for these things in their own counties. They're putting their money where their mouth is. They're taking action and they're getting things done. And so I'm just so super proud of all of you. I just can't even tell you. So the work that you're doing, I couldn't thank you more. It's probably, like I said, the most important endeavor we're going to all be involved in our life. So thank you so much. Now we had another county captain who wrote, let me tell you, the best Liberty State song. It is so cool. It had kind of a nice military cadence to it and something that everybody can sing, even if you can't sing. And that's why she wrote it that way. Unfortunately, I mean, lo and behold, she literally has something like laryngitis right now. And so we were fortunate enough to have her sing it at the Wenatchee rally. It was awesome. And she handed out the lyrics to everyone in the audience so that she could sing it, and then they sang it again so they could all sing it together. People love it. So, however, she can't be here. She just said, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be able to even speak, let alone sing. So, we also have some remarkable talent in the audience that I can't say enough good things about this young lady. She's so amazing. She has recorded this song with the help of people in Nashville. And if you all would please give a warm welcome to Geneva Black. She's going to sing tonight for us her song, Cry of a Prisoner.
Well, I wrote this song for the Bundys shortly after it happened, but I also want to dedicate it to all those tireless people who are fighting for the cause of liberty, and they've said they consider this their anthem, which means a lot to me.
It's a place I go.
goodness, we're in the company of greatness. You can buy that song on iTunes, everyone. Private Prisoner, Geneva Black. So, my goodness. Okay, so we got to get moving. We've got a time schedule we're on here. So, next we have Mike Fagan and Tim Ben, who will host the Right Spokane Perspective. And I'm sure most of you don't need much of an introduction. However, I was told to read this anyway. Mike is currently serving as a city councilor for the city of Spokane. You may also know him as a co-host of the Right Spokane Perspective on ACN. He's commander of Hilliard VFW Post 1474. He, along with his father Jack and Tim Iman, better known as Voters, want more choices. Better known as Voters Want More Choices, are the driving force behind many initiatives over the years, including $30 car tabs. Hooray for that. Mike is currently running for city council president in the city of Spokane. Tim Ben, you may know Tim as co-host of the Right Spokane Perspective on ACN. Tim and his wife own a daycare center and have been active in lobbying Olympia on reforming child care mandates from DSHS. Tim is active in the Republican Party and is running for the Spokane City Council seat that covers Northeast Spokane. So please, without further ado.
All right, guys, we're going to wake you up a little bit. Okay, we're the cheerleading section here, so when I say liberty, you say state. You guys ready? Yeah. Liberty! State! Liberty! State! Liberty! State! Liberty! All right, guys, welcome to the Right Spokane Perspective with your host, Tim Ben.
And Mike Fagan.
All right, this program showcases the issues that impact you and educate you on what's happening in local government. It's opinion, it's fact, it's informative, and your alert system.
Thank you for joining us in this search for what is right, thoughtful, and thought-provoking. And now for today's show.
Good day once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Liberty Gala episode of Right Spokane Perspective.
How you doing today, Mike?
We are getting along, buddy. We are getting along. You know, I had to do the cheerleading thing here because we got to wake people up, man. And as a matter of fact, Tim and I are going to share a little bit of news with you guys here this evening. It's going to wake you up.
A little bit of news.
Yeah, you know.
I saw that you brought your sport jacket with you, and I brought my tie.
I did.
So together we're fully dressed.
Yeah. Well, you know how it goes, man. We both have faces for radio.
That's correct.
You know, I mean, nobody knows what we come into the radio studio wearing.
I think we'll just keep that to ourselves.
All right, guys, I got some breaking news for you here. Closing the southern border will create a shortage of infectious diseases, welfare fraud, meth, heroin, fentanyl, rapists, sex trafficking, murderers, home invasions, prayer rugs, MS-13 voter fraud, hate crimes. Oh my God, Tim, and avocados, dude.
Yeah, I heard about avocados.
Avocados, man.
Well, you live in my neighborhood. I think I'd like to stop the meth and the heroin. We'll figure out all the avocados later.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, it's really funny. I was in a meeting this afternoon, City Council study session. Council President is now following suit with good old Sideshow Bob. Because Sideshow Bob is now suing all our big pharmaceutical companies because of the opioid epidemic.
Okay.
And what he wants to do is he wants to put forward a resolution that's basically going to join forces with Sideshow Bob.
The high people in my neighborhood are normally carrying pill bottles, so I think the opioid crisis is...
We definitely made it a point to remind the council president this afternoon that, you know, one of your big whereases in here is all about heroin. So I had to remind him of the facts. 70% of the heroin comes across the southern border. I said, Council President, I would be all over this.
Well, maybe
you just mentioned the southern border.
Well, maybe Ferguson he'll sue the drug cartels. I think there's a Senator Cruz out there talking about the drug.
Anyway, as we had adopted at the beginning of the year, I like to make it a point to get the hair on my arms just raised a little bit. It's a good way to start out the day, if you will. We read from the Daily Bread sometimes. Sometimes I'll read from the Good Book. Sometimes I'll read from...
Be careful. If you're going to say a prayer, let us know. You might offend someone.
Well, I'll tell you something, man. If there is one segment of our population, you guys know, that we have got to get motivated, that we've got to inspire, these guys got to hit the ground running. We're talking about Christians, man.
Are you talking about the biggest voting bloc in the state and country?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The largest voting bloc. And you know what? If you take a look back in history, man, I mean, at least in my generation, maybe the generation before us, when it got really stupid in the 60s, it was because the Christian community took a step back.
I wasn't there in the 60s, but I definitely see the effects.
You bet. Anyway, traditionally, I should say we just started this in January, but what we like to do is we like to start our show out with prayer. So unless you're driving, please bow your head. Father God, we do not take lightly what you have done in our nation. We appreciate not only the right but the privilege that we have to vote. We pray that we, as well as others, will use that privilege wisely, seeking your will as we consider the qualifications of those for whom we are to vote for. In your Son's name, amen.
Amen. Now, with the legislature just finishing up, and they actually finished on time because I think they got everything up.
Well, how did you know that was the next subject up?
Well, because the legislature's done and we haven't even felt the tyranny yet. I think there's criminals all over this county that don't even know they're going to be criminals come July when these laws take effect. Now, I'm hoping that with this 51st state thing that's going on, I know that we live in the city of Spokane, and they might know what our city council does, but I hope they don't leave us behind.
Well, I'll tell you something. After I get done rattling off this list, man, the 51st Liberty State movement is going to be moving. You guys ready for this? This is just this session, folks. New payroll tax, HB 1087, $8 billion.
That's billion with a B.
New property sales tax, also known as the REIT, SB 5998, $1.75 billion. New fuel taxes, MTCA, SB 5993, $2.76 billion. New taxes on bank customers, and oh, get this, the Senate whacked us, and then the House whacked us a second time. You ready for this? New taxes on bank customers, SB 6016, 367, almost 368 million. And then the House came back and spanked us too. New taxes on bank customers, HB 2167, 1.3 billion. New taxes on border business customers, SB 5997, 311 million. New taxes on travel agent customers, SB 6004, 30 million. New taxes on vaping customers, HB 1873, 207 million. New taxes online buyers, code word internet sales tax.
Now, they don't call these taxes, these are investments.
SB 2158, 3.1 billion. And finally, new property taxes, SB 5313, $8.07 billion for a grand total. You ready? Ka-ching! $27.3 billion, folks. Thank you, state legislature.
Yeah, that's a huge amount of money. Now, when I look at my property rent, I mean my taxes, because I am kind of a homeowner, I think, once I buy it from the bank, but then I have to rent it and buy it back from the government. Because I think when we bought our house, my wife and I, we got married, lived the American dream. I think we're paying more to government to own our house than my parents paid for the house that I grew up in.
I know, isn't that weird?
It's scary.
It's scary. Isn't it crazy out there, guys? Crazy. Okay, we got to do this again. Liberty! 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 All right, I think everybody just woke up again.
That's right.
Thank you.
Now, next year, there's going to have to be a whole new round of taxes, because the property taxes for education, that actually violated the McCleary decision that caused the tax increases last year, so they had to increase the taxes this year to violate the decision last year, to violate the course from the year before, to raise more taxes.
Tim, are you telling me that we were all set up?
I think that's the way
This
it
was
works.
planned 3 and 4 years ago, dude.
I pretty much think so, yes.
All right, well, let's go ahead and let's stop giving everybody the bad news on that. Let's switch to something local.
Looks like a
local race.
Hold on. This crowd looks like they're all taxpayers.
Yeah, they do.
They got that look. They got that look.
Yes, they do. All right, guys, hailing out of Spokane for mayor, here's what we got for a final lineup in case you didn't hear. Jonathan Bingle, Kelly Cruz, Sean Poole, Nadine Woodward, sorry, I just threw up in my mouth, Ben Stucker. All right, okay. For council president, Brian Beggs. Phil Tyler, Cindy Wendell, and moi. I like that, Tim. Moi. All right, thank you.
Well, you can just call it the Lone Ranger, since you've been voting alone for the last couple of years.
All right, Council District 1, this is Northeast, this is backfilling my seat here. You guys, this is going to be the most contested race in the city of Spokane. Chris Brown, Michael Catherine, Jarrell Haynes, school board guy. Yeah, voted for most of these races.
Yeah, I think he's the one that voted for the, what was it? Was it a $53 billion budget hole for the school, you know, for the kids?
Oh, yeah. Louis Lefebvre, and I hope I pronounced that right. Doug Salter, Nagamana Shirazi, and moi. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're him. All right, I'm ready to, yeah. Council District 2, that's the South Hill. Lori Kinnear, the incumbent. One really cool thing about Lori Kinnear, the guys over here, when it's time to pull us off the stage, no elephant hooks. Okay? Sorry, man. All right. Lori Kinnear, Liz Fleming, Tony Keeping. Oh my God, stand up, Tony. Yeah. Tony Keeping, yeah, buddy. All right, Council District 3, we're talking about the Northwest. This is another hotly contested race. It's because everybody wants to find out who is going to assume control of the marijuana farm. Will Karen Stratton retain control? Or will it be Ken Son, Christopher Savage, Jeff Rudy, Andy Rothman, and finally, Jeff Martin?
Now, these are hotly contested races. This is the most amount of candidates I've ever seen in the city of Spokane, which I would think is encouraging, but some of the candidates, their policies do scare me since I live in that city. But understand, if you create a 51st state, Spokane is still in the middle of it, and what happens in Spokane doesn't stay in Spokane.
Oh, no it don't. It uses out all over the place. And here we go, folks, Spokane Valley. Council position 2, and believe it or not, they're not district, they're not broken down by district, it's citywide. 100,000 people voting for these guys.
Citywide.
Yep, council position 2, Randy Peets, Michelle Rasmussen, Rocky Simpson.
Oh, look, there he is.
Oh, there's one right there. All right, council position 3, Lance Durrell, Albert Merkel, Adam Smash Smith, and Arnie Woodward. And Arnie Woodward. And Arnie Woodward. Council position 6, Tim Hattenberg, Sean Stanfield, Pat Stretch, and Bo Tucker. That rounds out the candidate list of the City of Spokane Valley and City of Spokane. What did you think, Tim?
Well, I think there's a lot of candidates, and I see a lot of people in the room. I really hope we we see voter turnout, I remember an election just a couple of years ago. We forget municipal elections. It seems like conservatives and Christians, they all want to vote for the executive, the president, the mayor, and we forget to turn out. I think I saw like 20 or 30% voter turnout in my district. Now, we're going to see higher voter turnout this time around. But, when you got half the people that are registered to vote, then less than half of those turn out to vote. We got to get people registered to vote, turning out to vote if they want to protect their rights, their parents' rights, the children's rights, the next generation's rights. That's right. Keep the American dream rolling.
That's right. That's right.
Rolling.
Well, hey guys, looks like I just saw an elephant hook over there.
Oh, we gotta go.
So we gotta go. That being said, Mike and Tim are out of here today. We'll be back at you in your face again tomorrow. Oh, by the way, let's get ready to rock and roll at a fundraising auction.
Mike and Tim, thank you kindly. Okay, so next we have Lauren Cole. Lauren is the Chief of Police in Republic, Washington. He gained national attention for his opposition to 1639, bless his heart, and has authored a book, American Cop, which is doing very well nationwide. He has a table in the back where you can get an autographed copy of his book if you'd like afterwards. So please give Lauren a warm round of applause.
Being told we're short on time, so I will try to make this quick. As a lot of you apparently know, I'm that guy that was on Tucker Carlson saying I would not violate my oath of office, and I would not enforce 1639. As many of you know, it helps to remember, oh, first of all, let me get the legal part out. I am currently the Chief of Police in the City of Republic, but I'm not here representing the City of Republic. All the words are mine. Thank you.
Yep.
As many of you know, it helps to remember the past in order to understand the present. Not too long ago in our nation's history, there was a woman riding on a city bus. Her name was Rosa Parks. There was a law that said she could only sit in the black section of the bus, and that's where she was sitting this day. The bus drivers had movable signs in the bus that designated where her and people like her could sit. Well, on this day, the bus began to fill up, and the front of the bus started to fill up with white passengers, so the bus driver got up, moved the signs back 2 rows, and told the black passengers that they needed to move back behind the signs. Rosa Parks said that she was not moving. The bus driver called the police and Rosa Parks was arrested and taken to jail. As the officer was taking her away, she asked, "Why do you push us around?" To which the officer replied, "I don't know, but it's the law, and the law's a law, and you're under arrest." Rosa later said that the reason she did not move wasn't because she was physically tired. She said she did not move because she was tired of being pushed around. She was tired of giving in. That was 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama. Now, I admire Rosa Parks or anybody like her because she stood up for herself. She said, "I'm not going to take it anymore. Enough is enough, and I will no longer be pushed around, and I do not consent to my rights being violated. I've taken all that I'm going to take, and I will not move." Prior to that, in Nazi Germany, Jews were rounded up by the millions, by the police and the military, and sent to their deaths, to the gas chambers, because it was a law, and they obeyed it like robots. The law was a law back then, and plenty of police officers were nothing but robots to the system. Our state's Attorney General and Governor, boo, expect that same compliance from the police in every state and city in this, from every police officer and sheriff in every county and city in this state when it comes to gun control legislation that they're pushing. They've even threatened to send in the state patrol to investigate if we don't. I was asked by the citizens of Republic the day after Initiative 1639 passed if I was going to start arresting people under 21 if I saw them with a semi-automatic rifle. My answer was no, I will not, because that's a violation of their constitutional rights. I was asked that same question by a couple different citizens that day, and my answer was the same. So I decided to put it on our Facebook page so that all the citizens of the Republic would know where I stood. And that post went viral. All of a sudden, the local and national news media swarmed to Republic to get interviews from me and the mayor and citizens. I was on Tucker Carlson, Fox and Friends, and did hundreds of radio and newspaper interviews. All of this attention because I said I would not violate citizens' constitutional rights. Think about that for a minute, though. Why was a cop who said he would not violate his oath of office even newsworthy? I expected many other chiefs and sheriffs to come out and say the same thing, but that didn't happen at first, and that had me baffled. I was trying to get the word out to others, doing 3 to 5 minute interviews, but it's hard to get all of the information out in 3 to 5 minutes. During the first few weeks, I talked to a few other chiefs and sheriffs who told me a couple different things. We are law enforcement, and we have to enforce the law whether we like it or not. Or, I'll wait for the courts or the State Police and Sheriff's Association to give me guidance. My answer to them was the history that I just talked about with Rosa Parks and the Jewish people. Would they be the officer that would have arrested Rosa Parks or sent millions of Jews to their death because it was the law and their law enforcement? I also told them to read the Constitution, especially the Washington State Constitution, which says, the right of the individual citizen to keep and bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired. If a police leader or an elected official needs someone else to tell them what that means, then they need to be voted out of office yesterday. The entire initiative process in Washington State and in other states is exactly what our founding fathers warned us about. They gave us a constitutional republic, not a democracy. The initiative process is direct democracy in action. And if you read the Constitution, the federal government guarantees to each state a Republican form of government. And I don't want to take up any more time, but I just want to tell you that there is hope. Tell all your friends, educate yourselves, educate your family, talk to your children. They are not learning these things in school. I'm Mark Colt, and thank you for having me.
All right, guys, let's give them another round of applause, please. Okay, we are at a very critical joint, a critical mission, a crossroads, if you will. This is where we need to see what we can do about inspiring you folks to give what you can tonight, so that we can raise some money and continue this effort known as the Liberty Sale! Liberty Sale! One more time, Liberty Sale! Oh, thank you very much. You guys are wide awake. Okay, I'm going to show of hands in the crowd. Who is married here? Not for the next 20 minutes. You're not. Okay? If you got your good buddy here, your friend, or anything like that. Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we got to get a keynote speaker on. So I'm going to have to bring you guys up again here after our keynote is done, all right? I'll tell you what, guys, this gentleman does not need an introduction. I'm telling you. When you are at the top of your game and you are getting good work done where the people put you, you always have got detractors and you got people taking the pot shots. You guys know who I'm talking about. 4th Legislative District, State Representative Matt Shea, ladies and gentlemen.
It's so great to see so many patriots here tonight. First, I want to just say thank you to the 63rd for their job on security tonight. Thank you for stopping those bent on violence and also those bent on violence as well. I want to take a moment and honor our veterans here tonight. Can you stand up if you're a military veteran, please? Let's give a round of applause. So bent on disrupting Liberty State, disrupting our country, most of them haven't served and put their lives on the line for this country. I find that ironic. Don't you? Now, I'm going to introduce a few people, but first I just want to say I am a Christian. I am not ashamed of the fact that I believe that Jesus Christ is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. We will not be bullied into silence by the Marxists. Amen? Amen. All right. So there's a couple of folks here I really want to, I just want to highlight because we're in Spokane Valley. Bo Tucker, you still here? He's running for Spokane Valley City Council. Also, Rocky Sampson, you still here as well? Running for Spokane Valley City Council. Our prosecutor was here earlier too, Larry Haskell. I don't know if he's still here. And last but not least, some very personal friends of mine who have suffered more persecution, more maligning, more lies and smears for 2 decades actually. And if you can believe it, more than I have by far. But these folks have been Christian pastors, have been ministers of the gospel of Jesus Christ all over this country. Barry and Ann Bird, please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, Liberty State. You had enough of downtown Seattle yet? You had enough of downtown Seattle yet? Have you had enough of downtown Seattle yet? So have I. But we got to get involved. Mike talked about the Christians earlier. In America, 75% are willing to pray to God, but the problem is not many are willing to act. This is one of the biggest problems we have in this country right now. And it has resulted in a massive increase in attacks on religious liberty. Somebody tried to allege I had a conflict of interest being a state representative and also somebody that goes and preaches the gospel of Jesus Christ in places like Argentina and Ethiopia. That's a conflict of interest. Could you imagine if they said that to the founding fathers? Oh, my goodness. But look at this. And this is coming. You can look up the primary sources on all these slides. But this is coming from the foremost survey on this in America. The Capitol steps of Olympia, we quite literally had somebody unfurl the communist flag on January 22nd, 2018. The communists, the atheists, those that are responsible for the deaths of more people than any other belief system in the history of the world, unfurled their flag on the Capitol steps. This stuff is real. This is from Antifa Action in Seattle, February 25th, 2018. Now, could you imagine if somebody that was conservative put that out on Facebook? right? But they've never been called out for it. In fact, a reporter tried to ambush me about a week and a half ago, and I just asked him a very simple question. Will you denounce the violence of groups like Antifa, yes or no? I asked him 4 times and refused to answer. They continue to cover for the Marxists in America. And we need to understand that that's intention. And if you don't believe me, this is just from April 29th, where Antifa was caught buying guns from a cartel for a, quote, armed rebellion. How come we didn't see that in KSOY or KHQ? Why are they hiding this? They don't care. Let's take a look over here, too. You've got an FBI report of Antifa going to Germany and meeting with ISIS. How come that didn't make the news? This stuff is real, folks, and we need to be very cognizant of it. Here are some of the death threats I received in the last 2 months because of some of the people who have been lying and smearing me in the media. Just so you know, this one is the one that doesn't make sense at all. You and all your Nazi friends and family must be eliminated from the face of the earth. Somebody didn't read their history, apparently. Because isn't that what the Nazis advocated for? Right? But this is the kind of crazy stuff that we get. And you know something? This isn't about one guy. This is an attack on all of us. And we all need to say, I don't care if you threaten my life. I don't care if you threaten my family. I am not going to back down. I am not going to take one step backward, 1 inch. We are going to stand our ground and reclaim our country, our constitutional republic. Reasons for splitting the state, just a few. The other day, Governor Ensign gave us another good one. Making us a sanctuary state. In other words, an outlaw state. A state where the rule of law is not respected. The Constitution is not respected. And this has been the theme of the Democrat Party for a very long time, actually, but coming to fore recently. But no respect of life, or liberty, or conscience. I witnessed the most anti-Christian session I have ever seen in Olympia. It was unbelievable, the things that were happening down there. And it's happening not just in Olympia. I was in Texas last week. It's happening in Texas. And it's interesting, I was in Argentina a week and a half ago, and then I was in Ethiopia. And they were saying to me, didn't you guys learn from what happened in our countries? Why are you trying to do it in yours? Why are you letting the Marxists and the Socialists and the Democrat Party destroy your country? I mean, this is just rank and file normal folks. Great question. We are morally different. We are politically different. We are different on the issues of life, liberty, property, etc. And I want to go through and prove this to you. We already have 2 states. We're about creating a new state. Last time it happened was Alaska and Hawaii when they came into the Union. Back in the middle part of the last century. We're creating a new state. We have different values, traditions, culture, and heritage than the folks on the west side of downtown Seattle. We just do. And you know what? That's okay. The Founding Fathers left us the ability to recognize that fact so everybody is best represented. And I talked to some folks on the other side of the aisle, and I just said, look, you guys would have more money for your socialist programs. You could try everything you wanted to try. And they said, you know, you're right. So just let us know that. Very simple. Let's talk about presidential voting results. Anybody tell me what's in Whitman County right there? Okay, this is a theme throughout the rest of the presentation, all right? But this comes from the Secretary of State's office. So, President, you can see there's a quite stark dividing line. Congress, a stark dividing line. State, county governor results, a stark dividing line. Whitman County got that one right. It must have been out of school that day. See that little tiny island right there in the middle? Yeah. It's downtown Spokane. And boy, they're trying to come, they are really trying to become like downtown Seattle. Thank God for Mike Fagan. How many of you appointment, but most of the judges on our side of the mountains were appointed by Democrat presidents. How many of you knew that? Wow. How about on same-sex domestic partners? How did the vote go? Again, stark contrast. Same-sex marriage, only one holdout again, Whitman County. Why is this important to talk about morality? People want us to be silent about morality. We want you to live your Christianity in a closet. It's kind of funny, it's coming from the folks that wanted to get out of the closet and put us in. It's pretty funny. Why is morality important? Because morality has a distinct effect on a society. And this is the rise of single-parent families, and nobody disputes, especially law enforcement, that the rise of single-parent families leads to a rise in crime and poverty and other things in society. It just does. That's why morality is so important. And so I want to be very clear that this is a Christian country founded on Judeo-Christian values, and I want to prove it to you with history. I am sick and tired of uneducated, unread people trying to deceive folks that we are not founded on Judeo-Christian principles. So let's prove it. May 19, 1643, Articles of Confederation, United Colonies, the very first governing document. The first governing document combining the colonies together in a compact. What does it say in the first line? Whereas we all came into these parts of America with one and the same end and aim, namely to advance the kingdom of our Lord Jesus Christ and to enjoy the liberties of the gospel of purity and peace. Doesn't get any clearer than that. Okay? Doesn't. But just because there's some people that still argue, Blackstone wrote his commentaries 1765 to 1769, and in his commentaries, he defined what the law of nature is and what the law of nature's God is. The law of nature, God's will, the truth written in creation. The law of nature's God, Holy Scripture. This is what he wrote. This is the foremost legal book in the colonies at the time of the founding, 1769. Remember, 1776 is the Declaration of Independence. At that time, when Thomas Jefferson put those words in to the Declaration of Independence, it was a legal term of art. Everybody knew that because it came from Blackstone. There was no question about it. What he was saying is, we are founding our country on Judeo-Christian principles, period, end of story. There's no way you can get away from that. But some people in the 1840s, named Karl Marx and Engels, among many others, started to question this. So in America, this question came to the fore. And the 33rd United States Congress took up the question as an official congressional investigation, are we a Christian nation founded on Judeo-Christian principles? 1853, Senator George Badger came out with his report from the Judiciary Committee, we are a Christian people. The following year, Representative James Meacham came out with his report. Had the people during the Revolution had a suspicion of any attempt to war against Christianity, that revolution would have been strangled in its grave. Still, people were asking questions because a guy named Charles Darwin came forward. And so in 1892, the United States Supreme Court took up the issue. Are we a Christian nation? Holy Trinity. They said, quote, as a matter of fact and law, this is a Christian nation. End quote. United States Supreme Court, the U.S. Congress, the founding legal documents, and the very first compact all say the same thing. And yet we're still having this argument today. So if you don't believe me on that, how about this? One of the things we were asked to look into is what accounted for the success and fact of preeminence of the West all over the world, he said. We studied everything we could from the historical, political, economic, and cultural perspective. At first we thought it was because we had more powerful guns than we had. Then we thought it was because we had the best political system. Next we focused on your economic system. So understand this, you had a foreign country saying, okay, what makes America great? We got to find out the secret. And this is what they discovered. But in the past 20 years, we've realized that the heart of your culture is your religion, Christianity. That is why the West has been so powerful. The Christian moral foundation of social and cultural life is what made possible the emergence of capitalism. We don't have any doubt about this. The atheist, communist Chinese, even our enemies, and I'm saying enemies, the leaders of the Chinese Republic right now, not the people, even our enemies say we're a Christian nation. And we still have this argument. This should never exist in a civilized society. That is the cost of baby body parts sold on the open market. Why does that matter? Why does this matter? Because if you don't respect the most innocent life, somebody along the line is always going to decide who lives and who dies. It's just the way it is. But more importantly even than that, Washington State funds this at the University of Washington to actually buy and sell baby body parts for research. This is in downtown Seattle. It's the red on the hands of Vladimir Lenin, and I want to share a very brief story. My wife comes from Kharkiv, Ukraine. In Kharkiv, Ukraine, they have a gigantic square that's there, and during the recent troubles, all the churches, regardless of denomination, got together and prayed in the square. Eventually, they looked up at the Vladimir Lenin statue in that square and said, you know what, we got to take that thing down. So they did. They took it down. What did they put up in its place? A cross. And here we are in America taking down crosses and putting up statues of Vladimir Lenin, and no wonder people around the world are like, you guys nuts? What are you doing? Different on liberty too. I don't want to live in a surveillance state. This came from the city of Seattle. When this came out in public, they backed off and said, okay, we'll stop the program, we're not going to do it. And they waited 5 years, and guess what they're trying to re-implement? Okay? Now, Representative Dave Taylor, former Representative Dave Taylor, did a great job on the Hearst decision. Great job on returning. But here's something. We should never have to be worried about that every time the legislature's in session, whether or not we're going to have water. Should we? No. Then we have these lawsuits where effectively, and the Supreme Court did not officially rule on the real nexus of this case, which is whether tribes have a veto over our water or not. But Governor Inslee seems to think that they should. It should be equal, like everything else. Why are we trying to do vetoes over each other over things like that? And this is important because Washington has a very high concentration of reservations. And there's a lot of folks that are very concerned about this from the tribes as well. Conservation Northwest. Conservation Northwest believes that Washington can be a state where wolf recovery, conservation, and management works in the long run for people, wolves, and all of Northwestern wildlife. Now they're based out of downtown Seattle, right? And that's really fine to say when all the wolves are in eastern Washington, right? And decimating cattle in northeast Washington and sheep. And elk. And this is from the Center for Biological Diversity. This is where they want all the wolves to be. Look at that. Forest management. We know what to do. And it will return the economy to rural Washington if we do proper forest management. We know what the right thing to do is. Why can't we do it? I had an argument with somebody that said, oh, you know, greenhouse gas. I said, okay, fine, let's take your thing with greenhouse gases. 92 million tons emitted by Washington State every year. 28 million of it in 1 year was emitted by a catastrophic wildfire. And it averages about 10 million a year. So you are looking at the most rabid environmentalist on the face of the earth because I don't want to see our forests burn to the ground every year. Amen. And just to prove something, too, this is the rise of forest fires. You'll see in the 1990s it started to spike again in the western United States, okay? When we stopped managing our forests. Here's another one. Look at this. Here is the map of federal lands. Let me back up again so you can see that. Look at the correlation. And then you got people saying, it's actually global warming that's causing the forest fires. Okay. This actually conclusively just proves that. Here are the fires in the United States. You'll notice it goes down when we started building watchtowers and managing our forests, and it stayed down until the 1990s, and it starts to go back up again. That cannot be possible if it's global warming. Just to drive that point home. All right. And for those that think this has gone away, how do you even remember Y2Y? Yes, Yellowstone to Yukon. You remember that? Just pushed to lock up all the lands. Well, you want to know why there's such a battle against Liberty State? Check this out. That's what they want to lock up. And my goodness, isn't that the boundaries? Very interesting. In addition to that, here is what one of their, and this comes from the Deep Ecology platform, one of their things says. I want you to read this and think about what this means. The flourishing of non-human life requires such a decrease. A decrease of what? Human life. This is from their own documents. I don't believe this. Do you? I don't believe this is the way we should do things. We should have wise use of our land. Babies are a good thing. Families are a good thing. We were able to stop the magazine ban, and we were able to stop the so-called 7 very bad anti-gun bills, red flag laws. Folks, there's a great guy that I have been on stage with that has come from Venezuela, and he has a great story. He said they came and they tried to get us to sell our guns back to them through buyback programs. Okay. And then when that didn't work, then they tried to come and seize them for really dubious reasons. Red flag. And then when that didn't work, they gave the guns that they had seized to the socialist militias, and they came after the folks that love freedom. It's a powerful lesson for us, because people that said that would never happen in our time, it has happened in our time. Just to go through some notes again, and Soda County has never really explained this, and we laughed about it a little bit. They were on the wrong side there. Spokane was the subject of a very extensive mail campaign to confuse and deceive people, in my opinion. And that's why you see Spokane on a couple of these. Here's I-1639. Now this is interesting. Here's all the sheriffs who said nope. And again, very stark, right? People who believe their oaths mean what they say, and then people say, Supreme Court's the one that should decide all this. Why do we take an oath then? Why does the Constitution of the United States require us to take an oath if that's not true? Right? Or if that's true? Why? Because we're all supposed to be guardians of the Republic, not just a few black-robed philosopher kings. This is, I throw this in here because a friend of mine who had served within Iraq ended up being the chief planner and said, Matt, we're not prepared. The only thing we really do good is cybersecurity. And we already know this because we take care of each other when the forests are burning down, right? We go help each other out. It was, if you go so mudslide over on the other side of the mountain, it was the loggers who opened the road back up. It was those folks who ran in past the state patrol to get to people. One lady was holding a baby over her head screaming. Folks, we got to take care of this stuff ourselves. In a new state that shares values, traditions, heritage, and culture, and that believes that we should be prepared to help our neighbors, this is not going to be a problem. Cybersecurity, though, even though we have great cybersecurity, you'll notice that 52% of the records breached were government. There's the other one here, too, average record breaches in 2017. Why are they going after government records? Because that's where those data is. Education. That's the cost. Those are the test scores. You don't have to explain anything else. Taxes. I did not create this. Comes from the Department of Revenue. You know, some bureaucrats in a cubicle comes up with contrasting greens. It's ridiculous, but whatever. All right, so you'll see the highest taxes are on the other side of the mountains. That holds true for property taxes. This time, contrasting magenta or contrasting pastels, right? Okay, so you'll see the highest property taxes over there too. You'll also notice that we generate a massive amount of power. You'll see we generate power for 11 states, and most of the power generation is on this side of the mountains. I want you to remember that when people try to say you guys would be very poor. You guys would be very unlit in the middle of the night. All right. So is splitting the state realistic? Well, it's been around for quite a while, actually. This is kind of the historic maps. This is 1860 when they talk about North Idaho. And by the way, I've talked to some of the representatives over there. The Lieutenant Governor actually went through this presentation of Idaho. They like this idea because it's about freedom and liberty. We're going to talk about it again. First, it was Lincoln State movement. But I want to focus specifically on this area of the country that holds true for Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon, all the maps I'm going to show you. We are already splitting according to every measurable thing I could find. So I'm going to show this to you. How about population per square mile? Well, we have the lowest in the country. How about rural farming? Well, we are in the Appalachian Mountains. Vote for president. Again, these high, steep things are cities right here. But you'll notice, where is the most free according to Kano? Our area of the country. How about long-range debt solvency? Our area of the country. We're already living these values out. How about lowest credit risk? Our area of the country, you'll notice no cities here, except Spokane is trying really hard to be on this map. Not there yet, thanks to Mike Fagan. Pension plans. This is solvency for that. Again, our area of the country. States for taxpayers that are best and worst. Our area of the country is great except for one glaring spot. How about pension plans in another measurement? Our area of the country. Very solid, and also the Appalachian Mountains. Income tax by state. Our area of the country has several states that do not have an income tax, and it would be my intent to advocate that we don't have an income tax in Liberty State as well. Sales tax, some of the lowest sales tax, again, our area of the country. Property taxes, again, our area of the country, and then into the Appalachian Mountains. Retail prices, our area of the country. But then you have this glaring left coast over here. Business tax climate, our area of the country. And notice Idaho's not in there as in the top 10. But they're working that way. By the way, did you guys hear what Idaho did?
Yeah.
They got rid of every single regulation in Idaho. Eliminated all of them at one time. Could you imagine a state starting out that way? Would that not be awesome? So here's another one for retail value, again, our area of the country, and down in the Appalachians. This is lowest cost of living, our area of the country. This is my favorite one. Everybody knows this. A bunch of dumb redneck hicks there. Eastern Washington, right? Only the problem is we're the most well-read in the entire country, the most intelligently literate. And that's why we love freedom, because we read. Secretly, it must be a war on women. And then I bring this map up and say, well, actually, we gave women the right to vote first before everybody else did. You know, and the reason was because coming across the country into the plains, it was a partnership. We understood that. It's not political, it's a partnership. Let's talk about sanctuary cities. Now our entire state is. Actually, I'm going to say this. They want our entire state to compete, and I think we need to resist that. All right. We have one sanctuary city in eastern Washington, Liberty State, and that is downtown Spokane. How about drone use? This is very important, okay? Specifically for administrative drone use. I sat 4 feet away from the governor, and we had a bill to prohibit the use of drones for administrative fines, like flying over your property and saying, oh, you got an oil spill. Flying over your property and saying, hey, your cow was too close to the creek. Or flying over your property and saying, hey, where did that fence come from? You're going to get fined for it. So I'm sitting 4 feet away from the governor, and the governor's like, but we want to do that. I said, I know that's why we've got the bill. But we want to do that. We want to fly drones over ranches and over the coastlines and see if people are violating regulations. And Governor, you're not hearing me here. That's why we have the bill. We don't want you to do that. And so when I looked this up, our area of the country has the lowest drone use, including administrative drone use. I don't want to have drones flying over my property saying, oh, that's $100. Oh, that's $1,000. Can you imagine that? What a horrible place to live in. That's Orwellian. This comes to us from Indivisible. These are all the Marxist groups in the country. You'll notice we have less in our area of the country, although there are still some here, some very violent ones here, actually. And you'll notice kind of a life lesson here. They don't like the high desert of Nevada for some reason. All right. Okay, on this, F means fantastic. Okay? Yes, really. This is per capita homicide rates. Those are the states with fantastic gun ratings. Interesting, isn't it? People are a little more polite, aren't they? Emerging mega regions. One of the great things about Liberty State in this area of the country is we are not part of an emerging mega region. We don't want to be part of an emerging mega region, all right? The Soviets invested in the disinformation arm of the KGB. They actually created a map of how they thought politics broke down in America. So I throw this up here just to kind of give you a feel of what they thought. They thought the West would be under Chinese influence right here. You can see that. So it kind of doesn't break right, but still gives you an idea of what they thought. This comes from When the Almond Tree Blossoms. This was written in 1992. You'll notice this area of the country was called constitutionalist. That was their term that they used. This is what they predicted. David Aikman predicted the United States would look like in 20 years, 2012. He predicted also that our main enemy would be Iran. He also predicted the rise of Russia and the resurgence of Russia and the rise of China. This is 1992. Remember, he did that. That's why I put this up there. The myth of two Washingtons. Here's what they think of us. We're just doing this because it's the resentment of a bunch of hicks and should be coded dog whistling Board of Ignorance. In other words, that's the way that they say that we're racist, okay? We're only doing this because of that. That's what they say. But the problem is, that's not the truth. The truth is, we have different culture, tradition, values, and heritage. And the New York Times actually published a study on it here this last year. And so I don't normally quote them, but I thought this was very helpful. They broke up the United States by county, according to the survey, of culture, tradition, and heritage. And this is how it broke down. The far west, pay attention to that. The left coast, that was their words, not mine. And Greater Appalachia, okay? So, who is in Greater Appalachia? I'm glad you asked. The Scots Irish. Amen. Yeah! I love the Scots Irish.
So did George Washington.
So did George Washington. But why? Why did they love freedom? Because they had a deep commitment to sovereignty and individual liberty and intense suspicion of external authority, aka the British. So then, in this study, they highlight the left coast. And this makes sense now to me why the left coast is weighted. The New Englanders by ship came around and brought their utopianism with them. Then the far west, remember this is published in the New York Times, folks, okay? The far west, and they don't say who these people are, but I will here in a second. Settlement largely controlled by corporations, and these people were exploited to their lasting resentment. Those were the Irish and the Chinese who helped build the railroads as they came across. Now the Irish in particular were kicked out of New York with Thomas Francis Meagher, who fought in the Civil War, a very famous Irish patriot. He came to Montana, became one of the first territorial governors, and they called it New Ireland. And what did the Irish have? An intense suspicion of external authority. Rightfully so. And that's how they voted for president. Almost exactly. By culture, tradition, heritage, and values. Again, New York Times. Thank you. There is this proposed state That's the ideological map. These are the counties with a caveat. Skamania, right down here. I said, if you leave us, Matt, we will haunt you. And I said, well, great, then have your county commissioners either vote a resolution supporting this or have the people do an advisory vote at the county level. And I've told other counties like Mason County, Pacific County, other counties on the west side, if you guys want to do it, vote. Vote that you support it. Again, here's the history. 1865 to the 1920s was the Lincoln State Movement. 1980 through 2010, it was the Columbia State Movement. That's the Spokesman Review, a 96-page insert that was very favorable to Liberty State. Interestingly enough, their owner had to come out and say, oh, but it's not really that favorable. Right? Whatever, okay? They were just mad we found it. All right, so the other part of this too, with this Lincoln State Movement and Liberty State Movement, it was the same type of conversations that were happening. This is back in 1904. However, if Eastern Washington and the Idaho Panhandle desire to form a separate state, Western Washington should help it along rather than oppose it. That was wisdom from back then. Yeah? Somebody dug this up in an archive for me. It's great. Okay, so is it popular? Yes, and actually I've got to add, there's one more survey done. Over 23,000 people combined have been surveyed on this, and it's hovering between 72 and 74%. Renee talked about this earlier. It is constitutional, Article 4, Section 3, and it's a simple majority vote. The State House and the State Senate and the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate. That's it. Everything else will be constitutional amendments, everything. This is the easiest way to go forward and the most practical. This is the Washington State Bar Association, never really a conservative publication, saying, yes, you can do this, and apparently they think the entire western United States is Montana. Whatever. Call me whatever you want to. Then this was another map that they did too, just to show that they believed it was constitutional. Has it happened before? Yes, it has. But I want to talk about the last line down there, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has voted to become a state. Puerto Rico contacted me and said, will you support our state? Absolutely. And I sent them a letter back, will you support ours? And I offered to them, we come into the Union, just like Alaska and Hawaii did, and keep the balance of power in the Senate the same. And it is being discussed in Washington, D.C. right now. If that fringe movement that there's only one thing like liberty. No, it's happening all over the world. Most of you know about Scotland and what happened down in Spain, but this is all of the autonomy movements in Europe. I mean, this is natural that people want to feel represented in their values, tradition, and culture, and heritage in their geographic region. It's natural. It's a human thing. Rural families and poverty. This is the great beneficence coming from the soy-drinking folks in downtown Seattle. Massive poverty in rural Washington. Then they say, you guys are a bunch of welfare freeloaders. You wouldn't be able to survive without us. And they give this map as an argument. See, especially you folks up in Ferry County, welfare freeloaders up there, right? And the Stranger is one of the most violent locations in Washington, but the fact of the matter is, this simply is not true. And I'm going to give you the updated numbers to this. I'm going to show this first. Idaho, the entire state, and Eastern Washington, Liberty State, have almost exactly the same populations, within 100,000, so it's apples to apples. The budgets between the two are almost exactly the same, and I'm going to add new numbers to this right now. Right now, Liberty State would generate, nothing changed, almost $9.5 billion. Idaho is now only about 8.5. So we would generate more. So people are saying, you be the poorest state in the nation. No, it's just not true. The numbers don't bear it out. And by the way, do you think we could run a state for $6.5 billion? I think so. I think that's probably too high. Think about that. But if that doesn't convince you, this is a snapshot in time. This poor, impoverished state is number 1 in apples, concord, grapes, red raspberries, pears, sweet cherries, and hops. 2nd in potatoes, wine, onions, edible peas, apricots, and lentils. 3rd in U.S. hay production. 4th in U.S. meat production. 9th in total forest land. 9th in hydro. 27th in non-fuel mineral production. And 29th in total cows. And that number would be a heck of a lot higher if we didn't have a wolf problem. Amen. Please let us wallow in that poverty. Right? And here's the thing. Here's my argument to these folks. If we've been such a burden on you for so long, I am so sorry. Please let us go. Then there was somebody who said that you guys would be able to build roads because you didn't have enough. I was like, what are you talking about? So I put this up there just to prove that person wrong. And this sand and gravel mines, we have a lot of them. And there's our total aggregate resources. We have more than Western Washington. We'd be just fine. Then they said we wouldn't have any sort of road network. This is our road network. I think we would just be fine. And this is how oil moves in Washington State. Many people don't know this. But it comes in through the Columbia River to Pasco and then up. We'd be just fine. We don't need you. Then somebody said, you guys are not having any state parks. And I was like, we have all state parks. What are you talking about? So I put that up to that person. All right. This, we're going to update this. We just got the 2017-18 numbers. But this generally holds true. And I want you to pay attention to the percentage of property taxes. 9% of the revenue generated comes from property taxes. Now, I want to ask just a rhetorical question. Do you think we could cut 9% from government? Me too. We don't need property taxes. Oh my goodness, not the schools! The schools! I said, you're not doing the math right. It's not changing anything. It's just not having an efficient government and not having property. Could you imagine passing on your property, not having to worry about paying it? Could you imagine? All right, spending. I think we can do better. Okay, I really do. This is awful, and I think we can do way better than this. We're number 50th in minimum wage regulations, and that was before the $15 minimum wage. 48th in unemployment insurance. If 50 is bad, by the way. Land use regulations, 44th. I think we could do a heck of a lot better, don't you? So then some folks continue to say this is folly. This was the spokesman review. And I said, remember that? The stranger was about the most honest. The stranger said, why not just cut the rubes loose? You right there? Yeah. I was like, you know what? Please, call me whatever you want to call me, as long as I'm free. Amen. As long as I'm free. And then when all arguments fail, it must be a secret Christian racist plot. You guys want to be introduced to some of the members of the so-called white nationalist movement? The media tries to say? Reverend Matthew Cummings and Doug Taft. Drinking all that soy apparently clouds your vision in your mind, I don't know. This is how ridiculous it gets. When they can't beat you on the facts, they have to do that. And these two gentlemen, by the way, are great friends. But I want you to remember, social justice warriors always lie, they always double down on their lie, and they always project onto you how they are themselves. So for example, if you accuse the president of colluding with Russia, maybe it was you. If you are saying, if you're saying, hey, you guys are violent, maybe it's you that's burning down shops and breaking windows and busting people's heads in Portland and Seattle. And if they say you're racist, let's look back in your history, Democrat Party. Yeah. If you haven't watched that movie, you should. Okay, well, there's several, but Dinesh D'Souza's. So let's talk about 8 Steps to Freedom. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Actually, wait a minute. Everybody asked me about this. I want to spend a little bit of time because I'm going to get questions afterwards. I've already talked about the first two. The next step is to do these county resolutions and advisory votes where the people actually have to say, yes, we want to be part of Liberty State. Then, we've already introduced the House Joint Memorial to Congress, and we've already introduced the bill to split the state and lay out transition committees to create this new state. Debt, pensions, judiciary, currency, all that stuff would have to be worked out by transition committees over a couple-year period. And if that doesn't work, then we go to a private referendum of people or initiative legislature. But I want to talk about this because this was in the paper. These folks are saying, oh, this is just going to be some secret Christian cult that's what you're going to do. That's impossible. It's impossible. You have to vote on a constitution. There's no way that's possible. So you lose all credibility when you say stuff like that. So I wanted to say, all right, let's imagine for a second. Close your eyes. I really want you to do this. Close your eyes, and I want you to remember back to your childhood, to the good parts. You're like me, you got spanked a little bit. So just close your eyes and remember back to your childhood. I don't know about you, but one of the memories for me was being out in the woods all day with my brother playing until my dad whistled at night. My dad would take us logging, and I remember running on the top of the logs with a dowel in one hand and some yellow chalk in the other, barking as the chainsaws came behind us. Probably be child abuse today. I remember that. And then I remember at the end of the day, I was so exhausted as a little kid that we got Kentucky Fried Chicken and we got frosted animal crackers. If you got like 3 animal crackers stuck together, it was like the best day ever in my life, right? Now I want you to open your eyes right now. What happened to that America?
Communist.
I submit to you, it is still here. If we want it to be. I want you to imagine a state without property taxes. A state with bureaucrat term limits and only a few agencies. A state where the right to bear arms is respected. That the most innocent in the room are respected. Where your property and your water rights are respected, and where we have free, fair, accountable elections. And you can only vote if you're a citizen. Where we manage our minerals in our forests, we don't just walk them off, right? Imagine a state like that, how prosperous it would be. I want to share this story with you. I had a lobbyist come to Olympia, and he came into my office and he said, Matt, I got to confess something to you, I was making fun of you. I said, well, okay, what were you making fun of me? Well, Liberty State. And I was at a dinner the other night with a bunch of very wealthy, multimillionaire businessmen, and I realized I was the only one at the table not laughing. Or, I'm sorry, I was the only one at the table laughing. And she really looked down, and she looked kind of guilty about it. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I was laughing, and everybody else was dead silent, and somebody looked at me and said, this is not funny. If there was a new state, we would move everything tomorrow. And that's the vision of freedom. We would be the most prosperous state, probably in the world, because we would be the freest. All the socialist regulations and good idea fairies, and we know how to spend your money better than you, we can do a lot better. This is the flag. Opportunity, resiliency, and rule of law. This is the osprey, the endemic symbol of freedom in this area. You'll notice the saber right here that's broken. This is a nod to the sacrifices of those in the past that have tried to make this happen. You'll notice the blue is a symbol of loyalty and truth, the nod to our agricultural heritage, and then my favorite part of this, the broken shackles of tyranny from downtown Seattle. God, family, freedom, faith, peace. Amen. The spokesman review actually did this. And I was like, that's a pretty darn good start. I give you some credit where credit's due. So let's talk about the last part of this. What do we do as Americans? Look, I don't know of any politician in Washington State, okay, that wants to really live in tyranny on this side of the mountains. There's a few that just haven't learned yet, and that's okay. We're going to continue to educate. But the fact of the matter is, we need to be like wolverines. They've done studies on wolverines, and what they found out is wolverines run 3 miles an hour, uphill, downhill, snow, sleet, rain, dry ground, doesn't matter. 3 miles an hour. They tracked one wolverine going up 4,500 vertical feet at 3 miles an hour. That's pretty amazing. The entire wolverine has that time. But it teaches us that we need to be in the fight for the long haul.
Right.
For the next generation, we need to be into the fight. Next thing wolverines teach us is self-sufficiency. In the wintertime, when there's an avalanche, a wolverine will sometimes dig down 14 feet to get a carcass buried in the snow, and it will eat everything. And some languages are actually translated as bone crushers. I believe that we need to be that same self-sufficiency. We need to be that same spirit of independence. Good independence. Not rebellion, but good independence. And the reason is because nobody's going to give us the liberty state, right? There's not. We're going to have to be active participants in voting and getting out there and making it happen, right? And that's not so hard, is it? I don't think so. But the other thing about self-sufficiency that I love, people say, well, Matt, what about all the federal funding and all this other stuff? Look, you know what? I would rather not have that and be free than be a slave for the rest of my life. Third thing it teaches about is parenthood. Wolverine fathers spend about exactly the same amount of time with each one of the pups. And here's the lesson of that. Who have you picked to mentor? Matt, you understand that? Sent my son to Evergreen State College. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's not your son or daughter. Maybe it is the neighbor. Pick somebody to mentor and pass on those values, tradition, and culture to the next generation. And it's great to see so many young people here tonight, by the way, as well. Last thing Wolverines teach us about proper attitude. Wolverines actually play fetch. They've got videos of them, and they make this kind of squealing sound when they're happy. It doesn't fit my picture of Wolverine or whatever. They play fetch, and they're really friendly. But if you attack a Wolverine's family, we'll rip your face off and die trying. And how many times have our families been attacked? Our church has been attacked. Our business has been attacked. Our community's been attacked. And look, I was guilty of this. Looked at that and went, well, glad that wasn't me. Folks, we have to stand up when they come to attack our neighbor. You know when God asked Cain, where's your brother? And he said, am I my brother's keeper? You know the answer to that question is yes. You are. We have to stand up when they come to try to take our neighbor's stuff. When they come to try to tax our neighbor's business into oblivion. Or eliminate their daycare center through regulation. That's what we need to do. And so if you want to get involved, libertystate.org. And I just want to end with this idea that this is something whose time has come. It's something that is going to happen. We are going to see this happen. They know it. That's why they're afraid. That's why they're attacking us. That's why they're slandering us. That's why they're spearing us. And that means we are right over the target. We just need to keep dropping those truth bombs. Amen?